In order to get to our first stop at Kyoto, we got a first stop at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. After a 13-hour plane ride where I watched the Michael Bay Transformers movies, wrote some scripts, and indulged in some questionable chicken, at 5 p.m. we finally arrived at Haneda Airport, and thanks to United Airlines' piss-poor scheduling, our flight to Kansai Airport would have been literally impossible to get to. So we had to reschedule the taxi sent from the hotel and get new tickets. But around 8 or 9 p.m. we landed at Kansai Airport, where we drove an hour to the Royal Park Hotel Kyoto Umekoji. The room we got was pretty nice. I had a nice view of Kyoto with a comfy bed and various nice accoutrements. There's me looking totally not tired from the journey. Anyhow, time for bed. Something cool about the hotel is that there is a Family Mart convenience store attached to it. And when I say attached, I mean there's a door inside the hotel you can use to get to it. See? In case you don't know what Family Mart is, it's a chain of convenience stores aimed at families, meaning they have some more general ingredients you can use for actual cooking, and they don't have as many lewd magazines. Not that I was looking for any. They also have a cute jingle every time you enter the store. I could have gotten breakfast there, but I opted for the hotel where they had a nice arrangement of options. Rice, sausages, croquettes, omelets, grilled, Spanish. I did pop back into Family Mart though to pick up some Boss coffee, one of my favorite things to get in Japan. It's a brand of canned coffee which is advertised in some really bizarre commercials with Tommy Lee Jones where he's an alien. They didn't have my favorite though, the Owl Light one, which was a bit of a bummer. Fortunately, the vending machine outside had one, which was just love doggy. After I was freshened up, Megan and I headed to downtown Kyoto. It was a lovely day out too, though this meant that the big winter coat my mom insisted I take went unused. Going through Kyoto is fascinating to me, as while it's one of Japan's major cities, you don't get as many high-rises. The local government has strict rules about how high the buildings can be there, so don't expect massive skyscrapers. I kinda like it in a way though, it's much less noisy and crowded than some other cities. Oh, but don't worry, they have an American embassy. Arriving at downtown, our first stop was actually going to be an animal cafe, which was the main thing Megan wanted to do in Japan. But we actually arrived a little early as the majority of them were closed. But while we waited, it did give us an excuse to do one of my favorite things to do in Japan. Stick around and look at the various shops. Are you gonna buy anything? Probably not. But it's all about exploring. I feel as though compared to some other cities, Kyoto is a little easier to do this in. Just because there's plenty of English signage and it's overall safer? I don't know. Also, I learned that Wendy's in Japan has spaghetti carbonara, which just sounds wrong. At about noon and after lunch, we finally went to the Bengal Cat Cafe. I have a massive soft spot for Bengal cats already, thanks to Linus Cat Tips. This was just the best. The place had a nice setup with nature sounds playing, lots of branches for the cats to climb on and play. Also, there was this one cat who was named Kenhine, who just kept patrolling the area, ignoring any petting, except for mine. Yeah! Located right next door was an owl cafe run by the same people. Again, it had a similar setup to before, and again has a very comforting atmosphere. The owls were very gentle and oh so very soft, with quite a lot of variety. Barn owls, big owls, small owls. Mom, look, it's Hedwig, Mom, it's Hedwig, Mom! Oh wow, its name is actually Hedwig. Fair enough. We had to head back a little early, unfortunately, because Megan got sick. Possibly due to the food she had at lunch, or maybe the heat, I don't know. Personally, I wonder if she had allergies from the owls. She claims no, and that the owls are always innocent. Day 2 was the first day we had a guide, and our guide was named Yoshi-san. He was overall super nice, though sometimes he was a bit hard to understand. And also, while driving through the countryside, the place is so warm and oddly cozy that it sometimes made me wonder about what it'd be like to live in Kyoto. What would I even do? Maybe run a pizza place that does deep dish? I saw a crowded pancake place in Kyoto with inflated pancakes. Deep dish surely has a chance. Our first stop was Arashiyama, which is a very rural town with some absurdly gorgeous views. Last time I came here it was raining, and coming when it was bright and sunny really changes the look and feel of this place. It also means that the giant winter coat my mom insisted I bring went unused again. We also got to go on rickshaw rides, which was pretty fun, and I was in awe of the guy's ability to pull 2 heavy Americans in a cart no problem. Next up was the Golden Pavilion, which as far as tourist destinations go, is typically a favorite for a lot of places. And I can't say it's a favorite of mine. Like, yeah, it looks pretty and I got some gorgeous shots, but that's honestly it. It's just a building to take photos of. I think honestly the area around it is prettier than the temple, along with the donation bowl in it where everyone was trying to launch coins into it like it was a game. Afterwards, we went to Ninenzaka, which is a bit more to my liking. It's a small town dedicated to a lot of feudal-era Japan items and memorabilia. And Studio Ghibli. There was a store selling some really cool plaster masks that I'd love to show you, but I forgot to pay the copyright fee. It was overall a beautiful town, and since we came during spring, the blossoms were in full bloom. Later that day, we went to a tea ceremony where I wasn't allowed to take video, but I could do photos, so I can still show you how it went down. We all sat together in a tatami room and took part in making our own tea for a ceremony. The host informed us it was something samurai did after battles to calm down and relax. Personally, I'd be more down for some sake, but hey, that's just me. It was pretty fun, and the tea actually tasted pretty nice. Kinda surprising given that I generally don't like tea. Afterwards, we went for dinner at a restaurant with an absurdly gorgeous garden. Seriously, the views in this place alone were worth the price of admission. Which is good because while I may have turned around to tea, I really don't like fish. Thankfully, we weren't at that restaurant just for the fish, as we were there for a show rather. At this restaurant was a Meiko, which in case you don't know, is essentially a training geiko, the Kyoto equivalent of a geisha. She performed 2 dances for us that were really beautiful and very gentle in the movements. It's kind of hypnotic. And afterwards she answered questions about what life was like for a geiko/Meiko. I even got a photo with her where I had my jacket zipped up all the way to hide the fact I got my shirt dirty and thus I'm horribly heated up. And to wrap up the day, we visited Kyoto Station for the light show they do on the steps. It was really pretty, but at the same time, I don't recommend watching while people are walking on it because it really messes with your eyes and makes you dizzy. We arrived in the comparatively rural region of Nara, where we were visiting Taidoji Temple, which houses a very popular deer park. Our guide was very happy to get ready for it. Taidoji Temple itself is very impressive, with quite stunning architecture, imposing statues with one of the largest Buddhas in Japan, and beautiful gardens. Oh, and of course, the deer. Lots of deer. You're able to feed the deer biscuits as well, but my advice is to go where it's not too crowded by them. You will get swarmed. Hey, oi. Oh, help me. After some lunch at a revolving sushi restaurant where, naturally, I opted for chicken, we went to the Fushimi Inari Shrine where the torii gates are. The torii gates go on for miles, and you can actually take a hike up the mountain to go through all of them. But that's 2 hours, and very much is more than the amount of time we had. Something else about this area are all the food vendors on display, including one of my favorite snacks from Japan, taiyaki, which are basically waffles with a filling inside. Red bean paste, chocolate, or custard cream. Very warm, very filling, delicious. If you're traveling with a tour group, try to get the cell phone number of either someone else in the group or the guide. Me and my friend got separated and lost, and we couldn't find any Wi-Fi nearby, so we had to take a cab back and call the hotel and get the guide's number from there. Not a fun experience, but at least everyone made it to the hotel safe. The hotel was the Kyoto Imukoji Ryokan, only a 5-minute drive from the first hotel, funnily enough. It's a more traditional inn with tatami floors, traditional Japanese wear, which I happily put on, and hot springs, which I don't have footage of because you don't need to see me naked. The room was quite cozy and spacious, actually bigger than the first, which I found funny for a traditional inn. Also took the time to watch some TV where I found a show that looked really cute called Chibi Maruko-chan. I dig this sort of childish art style. I tuned into a few anime I never heard of. I'm gonna see if I can find English subs for them later. The distance from Kyoto to Tokyo is a pretty big one, so we'll be taking the Shinkansen, also known as the bullet train. Our guide talked about how the bullet train was implemented before the 1964 Japan Olympics to ease travel between the cities for the athlete. Do you think if the Olympics did come to Chicago back in the day, it would have finally have gotten some better trains out here? After a smooth train ride, we arrived in Hakone, where our bus was waiting for us. Our first stop being the Hakone Open Art Museum, which I gotta say was one of my absolute favorite parts of the tour. Generally, art galleries are hit or miss for me, but nah man, this one was great. There was a huge variety in the sculptures on display, ranging from detailed and realistic to more abstract to whatever this pillow guy is. I kinda love him. And some of them I'm wondering straight up how they did them. There were also some interactive pieces like this cool kaleidoscope tower, a jungle gym type area for kids, and whatever this is. You guys want to see a girl with a gun? Glad we went when it was a nice day too. It made it all the better, and the poor coat further ignored. After a bit of a drive, we went up a cable car to go to Awakudani Valley. This is a volcanic field not far from Mount Fuji with some truly amazing views and smells. The smell of sulfur did quite a bit of damage to my nose, though someone thought it'd be a great place for a cafe. Awakudani is also noteworthy for selling eggs boiled in the volcanic fields that give a distinct black shell. The guy mentioned how it's believed that eating one would give you 7 years to your life. Probably shouldn't have eaten the shell, but hey, maybe that's even more years. At the base of the mountain was Hakone's shrine, a smaller shrine compared to the others we saw on the tour. Being secluded in the middle of the woods and being just in front of the lake, this is definitely one of the more serene areas of the tour. Also, there was a pirate ship in the lake for some reason. Some more driving later, we arrived at the Tobu Levon Hotel in Tokyo. Certainly a fancy looking hotel, and our rooms got an amazing view of the Tokyo Skytree, which was pretty rad. I still had some energy left, so I opted to walk around a bit, and found a Don Quixote store. Don Quixote stores are a chain of discount shops, a bit like Target, but set up vertically, and they have a crazy amount of stuff. Whatever you can think of: video games, rice cookers, bikes, binoculars, food, children's toys, located worryingly near the sex toys. These stores are great, and ever since the Yakuza games brought them to light for people outside of Japan, I'm glad more people have been interested in them. After that, I also decided to check out the local pachinko parlor, where I found out I have no idea how to play pachinko. Or at least this version of it. Though I gotta say, there's a certain ambiance with pachinko parlors. We went to a fish market. Surprised there was fish. No thanks. Far more interesting was Asakusa and Sensoji Temple. Asakusa is one of Japan's oldest shopping streets, right next door to Tokyo's oldest temple. Sensoji Temple was pretty cool, and there were quite a lot of interesting shops, though I was mostly interested in the places selling toys. Also, dog. After a drive by the Imperial Palace, we arrived at a teppanyaki restaurant, i.e. a grill-your-own beef restaurant. This was both a lot of fun and delicious. You just plop your piece of meat on the grill and let it simmer for as long as you'd like. Oh man. I don't know why we Americans hype up fish dishes from Japan the most. Their beef is where it's at. I gotta have beef, gotta have spice. A short drive later, we arrived at Shibuya, one of the busiest districts in Japan. Which, yeah, look at this crowd. There wasn't a whole lot here, though I did see some neat things like these go-karts, some flip phones at a store, a weather report interview, and an anti-mask protester in Japan, which has been doing masking since forever, when COVID restrictions are dying down, which is how I was able to come in the first place. What the f? Following that, we went over to Harajuku, Japan's fashion capital. I've been here before and wasn't impressed the first time, but actually I had a lot of fun here compared to before. For one, there's this cat flipping the bird at me. Second, I saw a lot more interesting fashions, some more of what I expect from Japan, some I didn't expect, and some I even thought about getting, like this Fat Albert denim jacket. If it weren't $400, I would have so gotten this. How could I not? I also stopped by Kittyland, which had a lot of interesting toys, including Puppet Sun Sun, aka the screaming blue thing. I also opted to head to Shinjuku afterwards and go to some arcades, get dinner, and go to some bars where I wasn't allowed to record video. Sorry. In exchange, here's this guy jamming. After first stopping at Kanda Shrine, which contained this tiny horse, Akihabara. Akihabara started out as a place where stores selling electronics would gather, but as time went on, it also became a haven for anime and game culture in Japan. The game and anime stuff is already like manna from heaven to me, but since I've gotten into tech stuff as well, I've come to appreciate the mass amounts of bits and parts and old tech on display too. Like, look at these old cameras, man. Look at them. I also stopped by the famous Super Potato Store, which is this massive shop for all sorts of Japanese games, old and new. I actually got quite a few Dreamcast games here. After a great stop like that, we went to a shopping mall, one that contained 3 stores I was interested in. The Nintendo Store, Pokemon Center, and Capcom Store. Capcom are my all-time favorite game company, and I was hoping to get a specific figure that had just come out. This one of Lilith from Darkstalkers, but they didn't have it. So they had quite a number of plushies, some really funny Resident Evil stickers, and some nice shirts. The Nintendo and Pokemon stores were cool too, though I didn't get anything from them, especially not the Pokemon one, which had a massive 50-person line. So I opted to look around the mall a bit, which was mostly just boring fashion stores and this creepy LeBron James statue. Also, Gucci. Why are you advertising with the Chris Chan sweater? After that, far more interesting to me was Nakano Broadway, a shopping center with quite a bit more variety. After a nice puppy break, I found a shop literally called Junk World, which was full of old PCs and computer parts. I don't care if this is lame to you, this stuff is cool to me. Look at this old laptop. I kind of want it, but I can't justify it. There was also a whole floor of figures with everything you could think of, from anime stuff, video games, vehicles, and even some American stuff. I even found the Lilith figure I was looking for right before I was about to leave, with one of the shopkeepers telling me there was one left in stock. And to wrap up this incredible day, we went to the main event of the tour, the legendary Ghibli Museum. Studio Ghibli, in case you don't know, is one of the best animation studios in the world, producing some of the greatest films ever made. Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Ponyo, and my favorite movie ever, Kiki's Delivery Service. The museum has it all, with history, fun activities, short film screenings, none of which I can show, because the place has a no photos or video policy. Honestly, I can see where they're coming from. It really is a place that I'd say you'd have to experience for yourself. But don't worry, I got something really exciting to take its place. Me doing laundry. Meg and I, for our free day, opted to go to Akihabara again, where I picked up a set of Spy X Family figures, as well as this figure of Rangiku from Bleach, mostly because her redesign kinda reminds me of Setsuko from my comic. Also, who killed Sakura? Can someone help her? I also briefly stopped at a PC parts store while waiting for Megan in the bathroom, where I marvel at the balls of the owner to charge $200 for a 1050 Ti. As well as admiring this tiny dishwasher, we opted to stop by another cat cafe, this one being the Mocha Cat Cafe in Akihabara. In comparison to the first one, it's a lot more spaced out with 2 large rooms, some video games, and a lot more cats. The cats were a lot more willing to be pet, which was quite nice, and they had their own hidey holes for privacy. We also played a bit at the arcades, where I managed to win this otter plushie from Megan on my first try, which I stupidly didn't record. And by total coincidence, the store that Megan wanted to go into to find more Ghibli merch was actually Kotobukiya's store. Kotobukiya being, for my money, the best figure makers in the business, crafting some really beautiful masterpieces. I mean, look at these god car monsters. And of course, they were all sold out. After a bit of shopping in Akihabara, we went over to Harajuku again, where we went over to Harry Harajuku, an animal cafe with otters, chinchillas, hedgehogs, and the world's sleepiest rabbit. Like the cat cafes, you're able to pet the animals, though the otters you're only allowed to pet with a special reservation, given how frisky they are. But it was well worth it. It was really fun getting to pet them, and they move with such energy, you never quite knew what to expect from them. And it seems like they're being treated quite well, which is nice, because I'll admit, after I watched Frederick Knutson's video about the Per Cat Cafe, I'm a little nervous sometimes with animal cafes. But this one was pretty on the level, so that's nice. After that, we went back to the hotel, where I went to a bathhouse for that evening and started to prep for tomorrow. And there we go, that was my trip to Japan. It was an absolute joy to come back after 3 years of being locked out of the country due to the pandemic. This country is such a wonderful experience, and coming along with a friend with more years of life experience got me thinking about it more in depth than the previous 2 times where I was more so just a tourist. I don't know how to explain it really. I guess with the stress of where I want to go in the future and such, there was something that spoke to me about this place, and still does. I don't know, maybe I'm just saying things because I don't know how to write an ending for this. And I'm tired from the journey back. I'm writing the script as I'm flying back. Anyhow, hopefully I get to go again. Let me know what was the most interesting thing to you in the comments, and please subscribe.